companies are on your permanent bad list and you'll never do business with them. Story 1. Melinda's hot sauce. Back in the 80s, a Belizean lady named Marie Sharp started growing habaneros and making a hot sauce. She named it Melinda's, after her husband's farm. It got really popular in Belize and she found a distributor, Figueroa International, to sell her sauces in the US, where it quickly became the best-selling habanero sauce. She wasn't business savvy though, and the Figueroa brothers trademarked the Melinda's name behind her back, cut her out of the US market, and started selling their own more cheaply made sauce clone under the Melinda's name. She fought them for the name in courts for 5 years until she could no longer afford the legal fees and finally gave up the name in return for the Figueroas dropping her sole distributor contract. She couldn't sell any hot sauce in the US because she was still under contract with them. Then she started over and named her sauce after herself. Marie Sharp's habanero hot sauce is now back on US store shelves and is 10x better than Melinda's. Don't support corporate theft. Story 2. Nestle. Their CEO lobbied to legislate the use of tap water to only be used for dishes, laundry, etc. The guy didn't think people should be able to drink the water coming out of their sinks. Ongoing, they're siphoning of public water supplies to bottle and sell for profit. This company is absolute trash, and the owner should take a long walk off a short pier. Story 3. Newegg. They sent me a PC with a faulty graphics card that I returned. They sent me a picture of a broken server rack and said we can't give you a refund because this is what you sent us. I had to reach out on social media and they still wouldn't give me a refund. I got so frustrated I said this felt like fraud and I was considering contacting a lawyer. My refund came an hour later. Story 4. Ticketmaster. On 2 separate occasions something went sideways and they just said screw you. For a Lady Gaga concert they sold a non-existent section and the venue scrambled to put us in foldable chairs literally right behind a row of porta potties. We couldn't see anything but smelled everything. Then for a Beyonce concert they sold us 1,800 VIP tickets that were nowhere near where the depiction and they relabeled the row of seats right behind that region as obstructed, which is true of the VIP section too. You basically couldn't see anything. In both cases Ticketmaster said to pound sand and they reserve all rights to change anything about the seats they want. It's so hard to avoid doing business with them, which is why I didn't initially boycott, but now, never again. I don't care if I never see another live concert again. Story 5. The Salvation Army. 3 separate times I have caught them stealing toys meant for the Toys for Tots program by saying that they were with the Marines and sent to do pickups. This is what happens when a good chunk of your volunteers are actually only there because it is court-ordered community service or they wanted work release while in jail. Story 6. Wells Fargo. My dad was dying of cancer and he started signing over all his accounts. The manager faxed the forms to my dad to sign and he sent them back. The last page got cut off and the manager never said anything. We did not get permission to access his account after he died because of it. We had to pay a lawyer $15,000 to fight Wells Fargo and get our dad's money from them. I will never do business with them again. Story 7. Wells Fargo repeatedly exploiting and scamming their customers. Repeatedly in regulatory trouble, of their clients. You can change leadership all you want, but when this type of culture is so deeply ingrained in the company, it takes a long time to work it out. Story 8. Verizon. My contract was up for renewal and I went to the online chat to get new pricing. The rep provided the info and tried to get me to recommit, but I politely thanked him and said I was still shopping around. A few minutes later, I received an email alert that my account settings had changed. He removed paperless billing, autopay, and an employer discount. When I followed up, I learned there was no way that could accidentally happen. I received lots of apologies, but I never trust them again. Story 9. Youll. Massive business supplier that openly laments that workers have rights, and actively tries to gain back the good old days of treating your workers like cattle. Story 10. Pep Boys. Screwed me over royally and I ended up broken down in the median of a busy road in a not the best part of town as a scared teen. I guess they assumed they could overcharge a stupid college kid and not actually fix the car, years, and much disposable income later. I still flat out refused to give them my business. Story 11. Walmart. The company ranks in the top 5 for employees on government assistance, and at the top for retailers that receive SNAP spending. The wealthiest family on earth is using taxpayers to cover their payroll for them. Story 12. Progressive. I had them for 10 years without a claim. I was rear-ended by a kid. 100 his fault, he had insurance. They gave me so many problems with pricing my car. I went up 2 levels to like the agent supervisor, and this guy was lying to me. It got so bad I recorded him. I then put the recording on YouTube and sent links to every person in Progressive that I could reach. Only then did I get somebody who gave me a fair assessment for my car. They originally offered me $10,000 and I ended up settling for $19,000. It was such a scam. A little while later my friend had an accident and also had Progressive. And gave her a hassle over who to take the car to, and it ended up, she was correct that she needed to take it to the dealer, but that was enough that I switched. When I switched I had already signed up for new insurance and the agent tried to convince me to stay with Progressive by saying, well, you don't know how they will treat you when you have an accident because you haven't had an accident with them yet. I said no, but I know how you'll treat me and I don't like it. Story 13. Any food delivery service. Uber Eats, DoorDash, Postmates, Grubhub, you name it. They pay drivers barely enough, have had many controversies with taking tips, charges customers insane fees, take profits from restaurants, cause customers to blame restaurants for errors by the driver, and encourage the existence of ghost kitchens which ruins local restaurant culture. Bad for the pockets of the customer, driver and restaurant, all for the sake of convenience. Story 14 Bluegrass Quality Meats. I worked there, had a manager tell me to pick meat up off the floor and put it back on the rack. That floor was cleaned with chemicals strong enough to eat through my boot. And now it was on my food. When I tried to say they couldn't make me do that, I was written up. So far as I know, that guy still works there. Story 15 Adobe. They reversed their permanent licensing for people who already purchased permanent licenses and tried to act coy when people called them out on it. Story 16 Shake Shack. COVID hit my small business hard and we applied for the PPP loans. As soon as they were made available to apply for, we were told funds were dried up. Come to find out, Shake Shack and a few other companies used loopholes to treat each one of their corporate-owned locations as its own business and sucked up millions of dollars of loans before actual small businesses could get it. I've never set foot in one since. Story 17 Walmart destroys small economies. Hobby Lobby brought religion into politics. Ticketmaster, because WTF are handling fees on a digital transaction. Monsanto is just all around unethical. Story 18 American Airlines. Their error caused me to miss a flight, which I had to pay to rebook. Their response was nothing we can do. They all but admitted their fault, yet wouldn't make it right. Never again. Probably, because it seems like whenever I say never I end up eating my words somewhere down the road. Story 19 Personally as a veteran. Companies that go out of their way to let you know they're veteran-owned, like blatant in-your-face patriotic or militaristic imagery and messaging. If you started the company as a veteran, fine. If there's a little blurb about it on the website somewhere, fine. Blast American flags or stars or rifles or olive drab and camo print everywhere. Or name your company some variation of patriot. That noise. Story 20 My local McDonald's and KFC. They both have their menu showing one price but they charge a different amount. A chicken sandwich may show as $5.39 but will ring up as $7.99 and they are rude when you point it out. Story 21 Chick-fil-A. The food is mid-tier at best. When I moved south, everyone kept telling me to try it like it was some heavenly ambrosia. I make better waffle fries in my air fryer at home. Also, they're a morally bankrupt company, and I will never give them a single penny of my money. You can add Hobby Lobby to that list for the same reason. Story 22 Best Western. Stayed at their Disney location. They have bed bugs, and the bugs were so bold they just walked across the pillows like they paid for my room. I screamed like a little and called management, managered gaff. They did not notify anyone in the adjacent rooms and went, well, what do you want me to do, dude? I want you to process my refund, then douse me in bleach to wash away this gross feeling. Story 23 I needed a vinyl banner made. Instead of going with a big national international company, I decided to support local, got a quote, got all the files to the print shop, gave them my need-by date and insisted on seeing the proof at least 3 days prior to the need-by date. Then nothing, could not get a response, proof date flies past. Need-by date flies past. Go into the shop, speak to the owner who took my order, who insists he's never heard of it until I show him the correspondence. Suddenly he remembered. He swears to me that he will do it himself and I will have a proof within a few hours. Nothing. I go ahead, design it myself and submit it through one of the big multinationals. Get my banner within a few days. Local guy sends me a proof that is objectively terrible, also has the gall to double the price because it is a rush job. I suggest that he can go fornicate with himself. I have taken the opportunity to badmouth this business at every turn. Story 24 Approximately 20 years ago, I rented a vehicle through Rent a Car. I had reserved a full-size car, as advertised on the website, something along the lines of Toyota Camry or similar. However, when I arrived at the rental location, I was handed the keys to a Hyundai Elantra, a model that Dollar's own website classified as a compact. When I raised the issue with staff at the location, I was told that this particular branch used a different classification system than what was listed on the national website, and that, at this location, the Elantra was considered full-size. Despite my concerns, the staff refused to offer an alternative vehicle or adjustment, citing the busy time of year. Left with no real choice, I accepted the car. I subsequently contacted Dollar's corporate office to file a complaint and was issued a 10 coupon for a future rental. This response was wholly inadequate given the nature of the issue. I've never rented from Dollar since, and I have no intention of doing so in the future. While I understand Dollar is now owned by Hertz, this experience left a lasting negative impression, and I continue to avoid both brands even when they are the cheapest. Story 25 My grandparents took their Jeep Grand Cherokee to a dealership for a recall on the wiring. On their way home from it, the wiring overheated so badly that the roof of their car started melting on them. They had to go to the hospital for the burns. They went to Jeep about it, and Jeep said, well, our records show we did the recall service, so this isn't our fault. You can either take the payout from insurance or we will match it instead as a courtesy. What do? Take the insurance money and use it as part of their down payment for another Jeep Grand Cherokee. I'll never give Jeep a cent in my life. Exxon. Their scummy response or lack thereof to the Exxon Valdez environmental disaster in 1989 made me swear to never give them a penny of business again. Story 26 Bank of America. After they took the bank bailout money from the government and then hosted a $2 million Super Bowl party tent, I immediately closed my account with them and will never do business with them again. Story 27 HelloFresh. We had canceled our subscription. called my wife to try get her to start it back up and wouldn't take no for an answer, told the woman no one final time and she replied welcome back, cancelled again instantly and submitted a complaint against her. Story 28 in white so grains of salt all around. I have not talked to a single black American who has stepped foot in Target since the Trump 2DI business went down, and they give no indication of ever shopping there again. Personally, I'm still baffled at Target's decision, especially knowing how much time and effort they spent at getting black people to start shopping at Target in the first place, and they were making inroads, then they just lit it on fire. Story 29 Jimmy John's owner is a big game hunter, poses gleefully with the big game elephants, rhinos, leopards he murders. I don't care if some of these hunts are allegedly legal, I can't support that kind of violence. Story 30 Any company that describes, talks about or promotes political or social views biases, etc. Chick-fil-A, Hobby Lobby, NASCAR, Target. There are more, but I try not to dwell on them. Story 31 Crackers Barrel. They hired me for a management position, had me set to start training the next week, even had my plane tickets. They rescinded the offer and never gave me a reason. I had already quit my job. Thankfully, my old job let me return because I had left on good terms. I feel like I dodged a bullet and I haven't set foot in one since. That's been 20 years ago. Story 32 Whirlpool. Got a dishwasher, washer and dryer in 2022. Dishwasher needed a new motherboard barely within the warranty. Washer needed a new one barely outside warranty unrelated and purchased a few months apart. The repair replace was within 150 of a new unit. Never again. Story 33 Capital One. They wouldn't let me dispute a fraudulent charge. Marriott canceled our reservation for our wedding night after confirming a late check-in the day before. Found out when we were standing in the lobby in my wedding dress and my husband in his tux. Still sent me a survey. Story 34 Chipotle. I used to go there a lot and then I attempted to get lunch at a location I'd never been to before and was told I couldn't order in person and had to use the app. I'm sure it was just a thing they were trying at a few stores, but I still will not go back to any Chipotle because that's how much I hate that idea. Story 35 Wendy's. The last 2 times I ordered in the app, I showed up for my order and they were out of one of the items. They wouldn't give me a refund, they just insisted on a substitution. So I said to just cancel my whole order if they wouldn't provide a partial refund, for the thing I had already paid for and they didn't have in stock. I had to chase down corporate for a refund. They kept wanting to give me credit in the app, as if I'd ever go there again. Story 36 Hobby Lobby. The owner's wife claimed to have a vision from God stating that they had to stay open despite the COVID lockdown orders. They also won't let their employee health insurance cover birth control, and they got caught in a religious artifact smuggling ring. Story 37 While Costco gave Mango the middle finger when he made his stupid anti-DI policies a couple months ago, Target just rolled right over for him and showed him their soft, unprincipled belly. Will never shop at Target unless they fire their CEO and rescind all their compliant advance bullshit capitulation to Trump. Story 38 Bluebell Ice Cream. They had a listeria outbreak in their factory in the early 2010s. A report revealed the conditions in that factory were abysmal, water dripping into ice cream, pests, etc., nasty stuff. Instead of boycotting them, a ton of Texans decided to continue buying their ice cream and stand with Bluebell because they were a Texas company. They had absolutely no incentive to fix their sanitary issues because numbskulls decided foodborne illness is less important than state pride. Still have no idea if they ever fix their factory issues. I still want to eat their ice cream. They lost my trust forever. Story 39 Hobby Lobby. I'm not a fan of their religious beliefs dictating their business practices. However, the weird Bible museum and the incredibly sketchy practices they use to obtain artifacts for the museum are what keep me from ever darkening their doors. I abhor Hobby Lobby. Story 40 Nestle uses child slavery for their water. Chiquita overthrew a democratically elected government so they could make banana plantations, which destabilized Guatemala for decades. Story 41 Spirit Airlines. My wife and I flew to KCMO because our son passed away suddenly. They lost our luggage and we had to wear the same clothes for 3 days and attend our son's memorial in them. We got our luggage back when we checked in to fly back home and they had the audacity to try to charge us for our bags. Story 42 Ford Motor. Bought a minivan from them around the year 2000 or so. It kept stalling out and within 2 months of purchase I was told it needed a new head gasket and it wouldn't be fixed under the warranty. A quick internet search showed that the make and model I purchased was known to be defective and that people all over the country were having this same problem, but Ford refused to address it as a warranty issue. I sold that thing as soon as I could as a trade-in on a different car, not a Ford, and never bought a thing from that company again.
11 bitans. Twist shy virgule.
Story 43 Lowe's. Needed a new refrigerator and the local store didn't have the size that would fit in the kitchen space. Salesman told me I didn't want to order one so we started to leave. His exact words were "you'll be back" and my exact reply was "no, I won't." Ended up getting a refrigerator delivered from H.H. Gregg 2 or 3 days later, and I now have it in my man cave. I think it's 20 to 25 years old.
Story 44 The American Red Cross.
They have a long history of unethical conduct and I have encountered too many first-hand accounts of how this organization either did something shady, wronged someone, mismanaged resources, or overstepped boundaries resulting in people who needed help not getting supplies or assistance that would otherwise have been available. IMO, the organization needs to be reined in and reorganized, if not outright disband. My family, when my father was injured in a hospital in Vietnam awaiting Aerovac, the Red Cross charged him and other injured soldiers money for paper and pencil to write letters. They then collected the pencils to resell once had finished with it. Meanwhile, back home, my mother had donated money to the American Red Cross, who said that they were going to use it, among other things, to buy writing supplies for wounded soldiers. The Red Cross also sold sweets to soldiers coming back from front lines, while the Salvation Army and other organizations just gave the soldiers whatever it was they had to give. After Hurricane Andrew went through Florida, a cousin who lived in an area with severe damage, the Red Cross came through offering assistance. After things were said and done, many of the people who had received help also received demands for repayment for the help that they'd received. After Katrina, the Red Cross took in a lot of donations for people affected by this specific disaster. They subsequently announced that instead providing more help to more victims, they were going to set aside millions of dollars for future use. They also mismanaged a lot of perishable supplies, resulting in food going bad while waiting to be distributed. People went hungry who didn't have to do so. I could go on, but I think that's enough to get the point across. Story 45. Chewy. Their technician denied my dying dog's medication because it wasn't time to renew even after getting my vet's approval. Them. Cancelled everything. Went to Alavet and now I'm back in business keeping him pain-free for the remainder of his life. United Airlines, Walmart. Haven't used either in about 20 plus years. Story 46. Chick-fil-A hate. Hobby Lobby, Home Depot, Salvation Army, Goodwill. I do my best to avoid Amazon and any companies associated with the Koch Bros. Jiffy Lube. I received a $6,000 oil change there. $6,000 because they didn't tighten the oil cap. The hot oil warped and melted my motor, hoses, and everything else under the hood. Story 47. City. Early in the days of online payments, they told me a student loan payment I made on the due date was considered late. They used that to deny the interest rate decrease I was promised after 36 on-time payments. I opened a retirement account with Citi and was pushed into a high-fee mutual fund that lost money. When I decided to close the account, an account closure fee was charged that just happened to be the entire cash balance in my account. I had a credit card through Citi with a low fixed interest rate. I received a letter talking about my variable rate and higher interest rates. So I called to find out what was going on and was assured my fixed interest rate would not be affected. Well, it turns out they unilaterally changed my card to variable interest rate and upped the interest rate by 15. No late payments, no reason. Citi has screwed me at every turn, never again. Story 48. Hot dog stand a few towns over that had a Confederate flag hanging up inside. I went in to try the place. Saw that, turned around and left. They went out of business less than a year after that happened. No clue if the two things were related, but I like to think they were. Story 49. Southwest Airlines and Delta Airlines. It's jaw-dropping how far those airlines have fallen from grace so quickly. I've honestly had better experiences on United, Allegiant and Freakin' Spirit as of late. Walmart and Kroger. They're the only major big box retailers in my area. They also notoriously treat their employees like total. I end up shopping at Dollar General, which also has low employee morale, but their store are easy in, easy out, or Aldi as much as possible. Story 50. Hobby Lobby. I was not a fan due to them trying to get out of paying for employees' healthcare on religious grounds, but after seeing their connection with the organization the Duggars worked with, it will be a cold day in before they get a dime from me. When you directly support the abuse of women and children, under the guise of it being part of your faith, you should go out of business. Story 51. Tesla has been on my blacklist for a decade, long before Elon started saluting Hitler. The morals and ethics of that company have never been good. The build quality of their cars has always been. Just one example of their morals. Their autonomous driving uses only visual cameras. Everyone else uses radar or lasers along with cameras, which is much safer. Teslas have killed people because they don't use radar for self-driving. They have hit bridges, cyclists, motorcyclists and more because the software did not recognize it as an object, where if they had a radar detector it would have seen a person or a giant slab of concrete holding up a bridge. They take no responsibility for these though, because it's in their agreement that the system needs to be monitored and the person is ultimately responsible, but they don't advertise the system like that at all and make it seem much more capable than it actually is. This was all before their CEO outed himself as a Nazi and more started hating him. I hated him and Tesla as a company long ago. Story 52. There are way better hills I could die on, but I refuse to go into the source. I hate the way they do business. I go in there looking for a charging block or something, can't even get 2 feet in the doorway before staff are hassling me about what I'm looking for. If I say I'm just looking, they just hover over me because there's never anyone else in there. It seems like they never have what I'm looking for, but then will try and pressure me into ordering it through them for pickup. Like if I wanted to order it and get it another day, I'd just get it online and sent to my house. Why is it so hard to have an electronics store in a mall that isn't useless? Story 53. AAA. My car wouldn't start when I was leaving my work. I called and waited 45 minutes for a tow. When the driver got there, he sat in his truck and typed on his phone for a few minutes. His engine was so loud, I had to yell up to the guy to get his attention. I pointed to my car, and dude got back on his phone. 5 minutes later, I yelled up at him again to ask if he could come out of the truck so we could talk and not yell over the engine. And he glared at me and held up a finger to wait. So I did. He typed on his phone for 10 more minutes. Meanwhile, it was 40 degrees outside. and I was wearing a tank top and light jacket since I took off my work clothes and was going to blast the heat as soon as I got in, so I start shivering because I'm freezing, and this guy shows no sign of doing anything else. I yelled up at him again to ask if I could wait inside because it was cold. He gave a shrug, so I went back inside to warm up. Dude just drove off, rightly pissed. I called AAA and told them what happened. Their response, "That's not what the driver said happened. It took 3 people and 30 minutes for them to finally get another company to come tow my car, and then another 45-minute wait on top of that. AAA can an egg." Also, they told me that they would tow my car, but I had to get a ride from someone else because they don't transport anyone in a car seat, which I get the liability risk, but like, you're gonna leave someone and their kid in a blizzard to die because they have a car seat. Story 54 USA, a lady rear-ended me and USA her carrier. I had State Farm denied my claim. She was a civilian and I'm a decorated combat veteran. They are full of regarding serving veterans. I did have other insurance policies with USAA that I immediately cancelled. I will never give them another penny, and I urge all my military friends not to use them. Story 55 BP oil spill, Jimmy John's owner kills big game for fun. Hobby Lobby religious fanatics. Essential during COVID, Chick-fil-A religious fanatics. Steak and Shake violent food poisoning. Anything that openly supports MAGA I will die on these hills. Story 56 Home Depot. Had them do a cabinet install that was supposed to take less than a week. The sub they sent out was clueless and slow as molasses. Butchering cabinet bottoms to fit plumbing. Not bothering to shim. HD themselves ordered each cabinet wrong at least twice and ordered our custom pantry cabinet wrong no less than a dozen times. I think they ate over 5,000 in losses on that one piece. The install dragged on for months and we finally had to raise it all the way to corporate. Everything got properly ordered and installed finally, but what an absolute cluster. I'm solidly Team Blue these days. Story 57 Ford, the Pinto and numerous other vehicles. Since then, that should have been recalled sooner to let the public know of the vehicle's danger. It'll be downvoted by all the 150 owners. They always do when I point this out. Ford did a cost-benefit analysis and determined it was cheaper to pay off deaths and injuries instead of fixing the problem and informing the public. Story 58 ATT Direct TV. They resumed taking money from my bank account 4 years after canceling my Direct TV service. Was able to get 2 months back but had to eat the rest. Never will do business with ATT again. Direct TV will be dead soon, so I won't have to worry about them much longer. Story 59 Geico. Called them to say I was moving to a different state. They said we don't write auto insurance there, but hey, race a company who does. 3 weeks later, move completed. I called said other company, only to find out that Geico had canceled my auto insurance 3 weeks previously when I had spoken to them. 3 weeks driving around with zero coverage. Geico for all time, HelloFresh. Tried them out and didn't realize it was a subscription that auto-renewed. And I was going to be out of town when the next box of ingredients was supposed to be delivered, called and confirmed they hadn't sent it out yet, but they wouldn't cancel, even without a refund. I just didn't want the food to go to waste, but it indeed was delivered and just rotted outside my door for a week. Story 60 Safelite, in March 2024, took my Subaru Crosstrek in to get a new windshield. I sit for an hour, then they tell me they don't have the gasket and they can make one, but it won't fit as well. Nope, it'll wait on the correct gasket. They tell me to come back in a week. I go back in a week, they tell me they no longer have the glass. Come back in a week, go in a third time, the glass they want to put in is scratched. 4th time in, get the glass with a correct gasket installed, they tell me the front cameras won't recalibrate and that they need to order a Subaru glass. Go back a week later to have the second glass put in, and no gasket. 6th time in, get the right glass and gasket, cameras still aren't recalibrating, so they tell me to take it to the dealer and they will reimburse me, make an appointment with the dealer for 2 weeks later. They try for 4 hours, determine that the cameras are broken from the install, call my adjuster, who gets on the phone with Safelite Corporate. They tell adjuster they will pay for the new cameras, but a district manager has to initiate the request, and there is no store or district manager for my area. Takes another 2 weeks before they assign it to a DM in New Orleans who initiates the request. The dealer won't deal with Safelite because of previous issues. Safelite will not pay me directly for the new cameras, they want to pay the dealer. After about 3 weeks of back and forth, dealer finally agrees to take payment from them, but won't release the car to me until they have it. Dealer gives me a loaner car free of charge, and does the repair. I call the DM and start nagging him to get it paid. Takes a couple of days, but he finally pays it. During all the back and forth, they give me back my $500 deductible, but about a month after the repair, another DM from Ohio calls and says they gave me back the deductible in error. I explain everything that happened and said I had no issues with paying the deductible, but that they needed to get there together. He tells me not to worry about it, and ends the call each time we were scheduled to take it in. We called and were assured they had everything they needed. We were never informed there was an issue until after we arrived, and in some cases, waited a considerable amount of time before someone finally told us there was an issue. The first recalibration attempt cost them almost $300, the new cameras $1,500, and they ate my deductible of $500. I've also spread the word about what happened, and who knows how much business that has cost them. Story 61 Lenovo. Their laptops are solid quality and priced very aggressively, but puts tinfoil hat on. You'll never be able to convince me that they're not targeting the business-grade laptop market specifically to steal data for the Chinese government using backdoors after the Superfish scandal. Story 62 Uber. The last time I used them, I ordered from a restaurant and shortly after the restaurant called me. They had lost power during a storm and could not fill my order. I asked them if they would cancel my order, but without power, they could not. I canceled my order myself, but Uber Eats charged me anyway. I called, tried to text through the app with no avail. At that moment, I deleted the Uber and Uber Eats app and never used them again. Lyft and DoorDash for the win. Any organization that makes it impossible to speak with a person doesn't deserve my business. Story 63 ATT. I was kicked out of a store because I got irritated when they bricked my prepaid and wanted me drive 3 hours to get it fixed at a corporate authorized store. Story 64 Hobby Lobby. Doesn't think they should pay for their employees' birth control with their health insurance. Went all the way to the Supreme Court and they want, fix them. Story 65 Chick-fil-A. And no, I don't think they have good chicken for the repeated donating to anti-gay groups. Target for bending to Trump's will. Grow some Target CEO if he's fired and someone that's a decent human being is put in place, then maybe he'll go back. Story 66 Honda Parts now ordered a wiper blade. Was sent the wrong part. Contacted them about it immediately. Replied with supporting evidence. Didn't hear back for weeks. Then I went on a 2-week backpacking trek. Contacted them again about it when I got back and they said I was now outside the return window, spewing policy that was nowhere to be found on their website. Story 67 Allstate. They doubled the premium on my car insurance, despite the fact I had never filed a claim as a customer of theirs for nearly 20 years. Their reasoning, they said I was due to have an accident, based on percentages and probabilities. Story 68. Ticketmaster, which sucks because that basically means no sports or concerts. They're criminal and I can't stomach their practices anymore. Tesla obvious reasons. Story 69 Ticketmaster, Starbucks, Target, Nike, don't love Bank of America, but they are so present in financial transactions, it's hard to avoid them. Stellantis, some local restaurant groups that have taken over formerly great restaurants, and enshittified them. United Healthcare 2X, for emphasis, Wells Fargo Meta. Anheuser-Busch, but not necessarily InBev. I hate the cable TV companies, and don't subscribe, but they also control internet where I live, and provide my means to earn a living. Cox Cable, locally, I can go on. Story 70 Smith & Wesson. I know looking for gun manufacturers who share the same ideology as me even a smidge is a fantasy, but I can easily not buy from the dudes who sponsor comp shooters with blatant ties to white supremacist groups. Story 71 Meineke. They destroyed the engine on my car when I took it in for a simple oil leak. They had it for almost 3 months. They gave me a loaner that was filthy, not properly maintained and wasn't registered. Took my car back after 1 week because they wanted to check on it. I had a list of complaints. They said it's all on me now. My alternator went out and now my air conditioning went out. Smell of gas and antifreeze. I left bad reviews and contacted BBB, never going back there. Story 72 I'm surprised I haven't seen it yet, but Chick-fil-A, ever since the bullshit they pulled back in I want to say 2010 to 2012, I have not been there. I still remember seeing the extremely long lines of people that waited to get Chick-fil-A because they were anti-LGBTQ, and I won't forget. Story 73 Dude who owns the local oil change place. The Trump sticker in the window of your shop means you can depend on the mega dipshits to give you their business. He'll do my own oil change at home for half the price and he can go right the off.